Hey Rebel Rouser, I'm Alan Voivod and this is Star Wars 7x7, your daily dose of Star Wars joy. And thank you so much for joining me for it. And thank you especially to the people who make this show possible for you every single day with their support at patreon.com/SW7x7. So The Acolyte dropped its 2-episode season premiere last night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 Pacific, 2 a.m. UK time. And today we're going to start with non-spoiler reactions about this 2-episode premiere. For a start, for the first reaction, I'll say that while I was excited to get 2 episodes, I don't know that they needed to drop 2 episodes. So we've talked in the podcast about how with Andor, the first 3 episodes, they kind of needed to release all 3 episodes because I think a lot of people would have been just puzzled and confused if they had only dropped the first episode. But yeah, it wasn't really the case with The Acolyte. Same thing actually with Ahsoka, with the 2-episode season premiere that they had. Like, yeah, I felt like that definitely needed the 2 episodes. This one did not, but I was glad to get the 2 episodes all the same. For a second takeaway, Leslie Headland has talked about the fact that the story of The Acolyte is kind of built like a spiral and that we're going to get deeper and deeper layers of the story, but there is a central mystery that's happening, and I feel like based on what we saw in the first 2 episodes, a lot of that mystery has already been revealed, kind of surprisingly. And I'll say too that there is a reveal that happens early on in the first episode that is kind of on the level of one of the more shocking early reveals in, say, The Force Awakens. For a third takeaway, I'll say that it's been one thing to see a few of the trailers and commercial spots, and then of course, I stopped watching because I felt like I was already learning too much, but to see the Jedi of the High Republic era, not only in their hanging out at the Jedi Temple robes, but also in their mission on various planets robes, like seeing the High Republic Jedi in action after having read the books and the comics for the first 2 phases and starting just barely to touch into the 3rd phase, like, it is exciting to see the High Republic Jedi in action, like fully in the flesh. And the dynamics between our main group of Jedi that we're dealing with, Vernestra Rwoh and Master Sol, and Yord, who's a knight now, and Jeki, who is Sol's Padawan. I like the dynamic between these characters. Like, it is really well done. I will say that Vernestra feels a little bit like she has become part of the Jedi Order that perhaps how we saw her depicted in previous Star Wars storytelling, she wasn't necessarily. Like, she has kind of become part of the institution, it feels like, as opposed to how she stepped away after the end of phase 1 of High Republic storytelling and went the way-seeking route. Granted, there's been a lot of time that's passed between the events of High Republic era book storytelling and where we're at with The Acolyte, but yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if that is actually the case, if she really is now an institutional person within the Jedi Order, or whether she still has any maverick tendencies. For a fourth takeaway, I'm enjoying the fight scenes very much, and what we see in these first couple of episodes, we've seen a lot of already. So I definitely think that they've got a lot more to show us, and I'm very much looking forward to it. Like, they're translating really well. When you're watching these things in little commercial spots and trailers, the way that they're cut for these things can be a little bit misleading in terms of just how they are unfolding in the actual real-time story. But yeah, it is as cool as you would want it to be. And there's a line that Master Sol says when we see him and May fighting in one of the extended bits of footage where he notes that May is attacking him without a weapon and wondering why about that. Well, apparently that's a thing, and you're going to learn more about that as you watch the show. For a fifth takeaway, I'll say that in some of the things that we've been shown already, there are a couple of misleading things for sure. So don't grab on to the stuff that you've seen too much. I mean, some of it is comparatively minor, like a shot reversed, basically, where it looks like somebody's running to the right and they're running to the left, like that order of thing. And then there are other things where we've seen characters talking and the way that they are actually delivering the dialogue, or how the dialogue ends up being delivered in a particular scene, does not match with what we've been shown so far. So yeah, there are still surprises to be had, even considering the stuff that we've already seen that will end up being, something you see in these first 2 episodes. For a sixth takeaway, I'll flag the music. So Michael Abels is is the composer for The Acolyte, and I guess I missed the news on this. It was announced at least back in March, but Michael Abels is probably best known for being a frequent collaborator with Jordan Peele. He worked with him on Get Out and Us and Nope. These are all very highly regarded scores, and he's also won a Pulitzer Prize for music too. So yeah, Michael Abels is a big deal, and the work that he does in these first 2 episodes is really awesome, and it echoes stuff in the prequel trilogy. Music stuff is something where I don't have necessarily as strong a grasp on it as I do on other aspects of Star Wars storytelling, but you definitely get a sort of prequel era vibe, but not quite, which is great because we're obviously 100 years before the prequels, and yet there is sort of a similar kind of vibe to the era, right? Like the Jedi are still well known in the galaxy and are still an institutional source of power. So it kind of makes sense that the music echoes that a bit, and there are like little Force theme echoes and other things that definitely reminded me of prequel era stuff. Like I really liked it, and I thought it was very well handled. If there was anything that didn't quite sit right with me, it's that the endings of the episodes are very abrupt. Like we have, a very short scene that's basically like an epilogue for each episode, but they're, connected to the overall story, and yet they are also kind of out of nowhere and very quickly, abruptly terminated. When it happened at the end of the first episode, I was like, oh, well, that's weird, but okay, at least I get to go into a second episode and see what happens next. And so you go into the second episode and stuff happens, and then there's another situation where something happens toward the end of the episode, and it's a very abrupt ending cutting to the credits. So that was a very jarring editing thing. But overall, I'm intrigued about where the show is going. The fact that they have revealed elements of the mystery already certainly suggests that there are many more elements of the mystery to be revealed. This whole spiral idea, where it's going in the spiral, I think is kind of the issue, in the sense that we might have gone in thinking, what is the deal with the assassin and how is that story going to unravel? And it seems like Leslie Headland has different ideas about what the ultimate story is that she's unraveling. And so I'm very curious to see where this is going. I think it was a good, strong start. And that's what I've got for you in this non-spoiler first reactions podcast, talking about the first 2 episodes of The Acolyte that dropped on Disney Plus last night. And that is going to do it for this episode of the podcast. If you enjoy this daily dose of Star Wars joy, please help me help more people find it. You can do that really easily by leaving a rating or review if you haven't done that already on your favorite app, by liking or subscribing or following or joining or commenting. That also tells the algorithms that, hey, we should show this podcast to other people. And just telling people about it, just telling your friends, hey, you heard about this podcast? That would be really awesome. And you can even help support me in the creation and production of this, and it costs like a cup of coffee a month. That's all. And you can find out more about that at patreon.com/SW7X7. And it just remains for me to say thank you so much for joining me for this episode, as always, and may the Force be with you, wherever in the world you may be.
7x7 is not endorsed or sponsored yet by Lucasfilm Limited, Disney, or 20th Century Fox, and is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Star Wars, the Star Wars logo, all names and pictures of Star Wars characters, vehicles, and any other Star Wars related items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Lucasfilm Limited, or their respective trademark and copyright holders. May the Force be with them. All original content is copyright by Star Wars 7x7. We hope you love it.